"Stop wasting my time with tears, lady. We want the rent, and we want it now." The man's voice, thick and guttural, echoed through the cramped hallway of the old apartment building. A little boy, no older than 6, clutched at his mother's jeans, his small face buried in the fabric. He thought these men were just loud and scary, but they didn't know the fierce love that would soon erupt, transforming their bullying into a spectacle that brought an entire city block to a standstill. Today's story is about that mistake, a mistake that began with a scream and ended with a roar. Sarah pulled her threadbare cardigan tighter, the worn wool doing little to calm the chill that had settled deep in her bones. Every day was a tightrope walk since her husband, Ace, passed, leaving her and their son, Leo, to navigate a world that suddenly felt much sharper, much colder. Money was always just out of reach, a phantom limb she kept trying to grasp. Yet, even in her struggles, Sarah always found a small space for kindness. Just yesterday, she'd seen Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman from down the hall, fumbling with a bag of groceries that had split open near the broken elevator. Without a second thought, Sarah had dropped her own last few coins, just enough to get the old woman a fresh loaf of bread, though it left her with nothing for herself. Then helped her carry everything up 3 flights of stairs, even with Leo chattering about how his tummy rumbled. "It's just what you do," she told Leo, ruffling his hair. "You help where you can." But today, kindness was nowhere to be found. 2 hulking figures, Derek and Mitch, stood framed in her doorway, their shadows stretching long and menacing across her small living room. Derek, the taller one with a greasy ponytail, leaned forward, a sneer twisting his lips. "So, Sarah, about that rent. It's been 3 months now. Mr. Thorne is losing patience, and when Mr. Thorne loses patience, things tend to get unpleasant." His eyes flicked to Leo, who whimpered softly. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. "Please, I just need another week. My unemployment check, it's been delayed. I spoke to Mr. Thorne last week. He said he understood, that we had a payment plan." She reached into her pocket, pulling out a folded, slightly crumpled piece of paper. It was a handwritten note from the building manager outlining a verbal agreement for a staggered payment. "Look, here's the confirmation." Her hand trembled as she held it out. Derek snatched the paper, barely glancing at it. A harsh laugh barked from his chest. This scribbled note? Lady, this ain't worth the paper it's printed on." With a flick of his wrist, he tore it in half, then again, letting the pieces flutter to the worn carpet. Mr. Thorne changed his mind, and even if he hadn't, he never signed anything. "You're out. Today." Mitch stepped further into the apartment, his heavy boots scuffing the floor, and roughly pushed aside a small wobbly side table, sending a chipped ceramic lamp crashing to the floor. The sound made Leo jump, burying his face deeper into Sarah's side. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat, her face burning with a mix of shame and terror. Her shoulders slumped, feeling the weight of their gaze, the silent judgment of the closed doors along the hall where neighbors peered through peepholes. She could feel her chest tightening, a desperate, silent scream caught in her throat. She couldn't breathe. "Get out!" Derek bellowed, his voice vibrating through the thin walls. "Get your stuff and get out, or we start doing it for you." Mitch advanced further, grabbing a small box of Leo's toys and shaking it, making the plastic dinosaurs clatter. Leo let out a terrified sob, finally pulling free from his mom's side. His small, panicked eyes darted around the room, then fixed on the open door. Without another thought, he bolted. He ran past the 2 men, their surprised grunts fading behind him, down the dusty stairs, his tiny legs pumping as fast as they could carry him. He burst out of the building's main door, blinking in the harsh afternoon light. Across the busy street, at the traffic lights, a massive group of motorcycles idled, their engines rumbling like a distant thunderstorm. He didn't know why, but something about their sheer number, the gleaming chrome, the powerful presence, a flash of a memory, perhaps of his dad, Ace, laughing with men in similar vests at a charity event, called to him. Tears streamed down his face, his voice raw. He started running into the street, completely oblivious to the honking cars. "They're killing my mama!" he shrieked, his small voice cracking. "They're killing my mama!" The roaring engines of 50 motorcycles idled at the crossroads of Elm Street and Main, a shimmering wall of chrome and leather. Frank, the grizzled leader of the Steel Sentinels Motorcycle Club, checked his watch. Their charity ride was already behind schedule. He was about to rev his engine when a high-pitched, desperate scream cut through the urban din. His head snapped up. A small figure, a child, was darting into the busy intersection, tiny arms flailing, a piercing cry ripping from his throat. Frank's hands shot up, signaling the line of bikers behind him to halt. The light turned green, but no one moved. The child, just a blur of denim and tears, pointed back at an old brick apartment building. They're killing my mama! Leo's voice was a raw, primal shriek. Frank's gaze hardened. He killed his engine, dismounted, his boots hitting the asphalt with a decisive thump. 49 other engines followed suit, their collective silence now deafening. A wave of bikers, a human wall of leather and denim, surged forward, led by Frank, their every step purposeful, heading straight for the building Leo had emerged from. Derek and Mitch, startled by the sudden silence, then the distinct rumble of heavy boots, peered out the apartment door. They saw the approaching wall of men. "What in the?" Derek muttered, his bravado wavering slightly. Frank, his face a mask of stone, strode past Leo, who clung to his leg, and stopped directly in front of the two thugs. He was a large man, even without his leather cuts, with a weather-beaten face and eyes that had seen too much. "What's going on here?" His voice was low, a rumble like the engines that now sat silent behind him. Derek, recovering his nerve, puffed out his chest. "None of your business, old man. Private matter. We're just collecting what's owed." Mitch snorted, a sneer returning to his face. "Yeah, a lady who thinks she can live for free." Frank's gaze flicked to Sarah, who stood pale and trembling in the doorway, then to Leo, still clutching his leg. He leaned down, his voice surprisingly gentle. "Leo, isn't it?" "And Sarah?" He straightened up, his eyes now locking onto Derek. "You two are trying to evict Ace's family?" The name Ace hung in the air, a silent, heavy weight. Derek and Mitch exchanged a quick, nervous glance. Derek cleared his throat. "Ace? Never heard of him. We work for Mr. Thorne. This woman's behind on her rent. That's it." His voice lacked conviction, a faint tremor running through it. But Frank merely smiled, a cold, humorless smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, you've heard of Ace. Trust me." He pulled out his phone, a worn, heavy-duty model, and tapped a number. "Mr. Thorne, I presume. Frank Miller here, the Steel Sentinels. We need to have a little chat about your eviction practices. Specifically, about Ace's widow and son." He paused, listening. "Oh, you don't remember Ace? Funny. I remember the Ace's Angels charity drive, the one where you tried to skim a cool $100,000 off the top. Ace remembered it too. He had quite the memory for details, didn't he, Thorne? Especially for financial ones. And he was always prepared. He entrusted me with this, just in case." Derek and Mitch's faces drained of color. Their eyes widened, their mouths slightly agape. Mitch took an involuntary step back, bumping into the wall. "You really think you can just bully a widow and her child in broad daylight?" Frank's voice cut through the stunned silence. He stepped closer to Derek, his presence overwhelming. "You think you can tear up agreements, threaten families, and no one will notice? Especially when that family belongs to Ace?" Derek stammered, his eyes darting between Frank's unyielding gaze and the sea of silent bikers. We were just following orders. Mr. Thorne, he said she was a deadbeat. He said to make an example." His voice cracked, the bravado evaporating like mist in the sun. Just then, a sleek black car screeched to a halt outside. Mr. Thorne, a man in an expensive suit but with a perpetually harried expression, practically tumbled out, phone still pressed to his ear. He saw the bikers, the crowd gathering, the police car that had just pulled up, alerted by concerned neighbors about the commotion. His eyes landed on Frank, then on Derek and Mitch, then on Sarah and Leo. His face went from annoyance to sheer, unadulterated terror. "Frank, what is all this? This is a misunderstanding. Frank held up a hand, silencing him. "No misunderstanding, Thorne. Derek here just confirmed you ordered them to make an example of Sarah. And you know why that's a problem, don't you? Because Ace was more than just a good man. He was a witness. A witness to your creative accounting during the Ace's Angels charity. Remember that, Thorne? The one where Ace had actual recordings, testimonies, documents?" Frank didn't just speak, he produced. From an inner pocket of his vest, he pulled out a thick envelope. He handed it to a biker named Gus, who stepped forward, holding up a printout of an email chain, glaring at Thorne. "This is an email from your office, Thorne, stating Sarah's rent was paid in full, with a grace period. And this," Gus added, pulling out a small voice recorder, "is Ace's conversation with you, where you explicitly threatened him if he went public with your little charity scam. Funny how the dates on these eviction notices line up perfectly with his refusal to be silenced." Thorne's jaw dropped, his face paling to an ashen gray. His eyes darted wildly, trying to find an escape, but the ring of bikers was solid. Derek and Mitch, realizing the depth of the hole they dug, tried to melt into the background, but two burly bikers subtly blocked their retreat. The police officer, a young woman named Officer Miller, recognized Frank and saw the growing crowd. She took the envelope and the recorder from Gus, her expression grim. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her voice crisp and authoritative, "we've received multiple complaints about your business practices. This new evidence, this is serious. You're coming down to the station." Thorne stammered, But the rent, she owes me." "She owes you nothing, you snake." Sarah's voice, though still trembling, held a new fierce strength. "I paid you, the money for Ace's treatments, everything. You just kept demanding more." Officer Miller looked at the documents, then at Thorne. "It looks like you've been double charging her, Mr. Thorne, and forging eviction notices. And these threats, that's intimidation and attempted fraud. Derek, Mitch, you two are also implicated. You'll need to come with us for questioning." The crowd that had gathered gasped. Someone shouted, "Serves him right." Another neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, pushed through, her eyes blazing. "He tried to evict me last year too, said I was behind when I had all my receipts." One by one, the neighbors who had merely watched in silence now emerged, their anger bubbling to the surface. Thorne's phone started ringing, a frantic, insistent buzz. He fumbled for it, his face crumbling, his expensive suit suddenly looking cheap and ill-fitting. The police officer gently but firmly took his arm, leading him towards the patrol car. Derek and Mitch, their faces etched with fear and fury, were escorted away, their swagger replaced by a defeated shuffle. Sarah sank against the doorframe, the adrenaline finally draining from her body. Leo, still clinging to Frank's leg, now looked up, his tears replaced by wide-eyed wonder. Frank gently disentangled himself and knelt, putting a hand on Leo's shoulder. "Your mom's safe now, little man." He looked at Sarah, a softening in his stern eyes. "Ace was a good man, Sarah. He looked out for people. We look out for his." Within minutes, the street started to clear. The bikers, with surprising efficiency, helped Sarah gather Leo's scattered toys, even righting a knocked-over table. One of them, a man named Diesel, with hands like wrenches, even managed to jerry-rig the broken lamp back together, making it cast a warm, if slightly wonky glow. Frank handed Sarah a thick wad of cash. "This is a little something from the club, for the rent and anything else you need, no strings." Sarah tried to protest, but Frank shook his head. "Ace helped us all more times than we can count. This is just us returning the favor." As the sun began to dip, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, Sarah watched from her doorway as the steel sentinels, a thunderous symphony of chrome and leather, roared to life. They rode off into the sunset, a solid, protective shield, leaving behind a profound sense of peace. Leo, nestled safely in his mother's arms, pointed to the last glint of sunlight on a departing chrome fender, a smile finally surfacing on his lips. Stories like this remind us that truth and community can be the most powerful forces against injustice, often appearing from the most unexpected places. If this tale of courage and solidarity touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. What do you think would have happened if Leo hadn't run to the bikers? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening and see you in the next story.